I never minded working the night shift at the hotel. If anything, I preferred it quiet, empty, safe. The place wasn't fancy. 3 floors, 40 rooms. On weeknights, half of them stayed empty. Easy job, sit at the desk. Check in a late guest. Watch the security cameras. I thought it would always be that simple. I was wrong. Late October. A Thursday night. Around 11 p.m., the buzzer rang. Through the glass doors, a man stood waiting, tall, thin, baseball cap pulled low, a backpack slung over his shoulder. I let him in. Evening, he said, voice flat. I gave him room 205. He took the key, but not before staring at me. Just a second too long. An hour later, he came back. Didn't come to the desk. Didn't ask for anything. He just sat down on the lobby couch, staring at the blank TV screen, and he didn't move. Not for 20 minutes. When I walked past him to get water, I felt his eyes following me, never blinking. At 1 a.m., I checked the computer system. Room 205 was still vacant. No charge, no record. It was like he never checked in at all. I dialed room 205, no answer. I checked the keycard log, 0 activity. He never went inside. So where was he? I turned my head toward the lobby. He was still sitting there. Still staring. 2 a.m. I looked up. The couch was empty. My stomach dropped. I scanned the cameras. And there he was, at the far end of the hallway, standing in the shadows, still, silent. I checked the feed again and froze. The lobby camera showed the couch, the vending machine, but not him. Through the office window, I could see him with my own eyes, but on the screen he wasn't there. I called the police, told them a man was refusing to leave. Officers were on the way. I hung up, looked back at the couch, empty, on the hallway feed. He stood in front of the elevator, staring directly at the camera. The doors opened. He stepped inside. The numbers blinked. 1, 2, the doors opened, but no one came out. The desk phone rang. Caller ID, room 205. I picked it up. Hello? You gave me the wrong key. Blue lights flashed outside. 2 officers walked in. There, that's him. He's right there. I shouted. They looked. The couch was empty. 25. Officer voice calm. What man? Then the officer told me. 10 years ago, a drifter checked into room 205. Tall guy. Baseball cap, backpack. He hung himself in the closet. My blood turned to ice every so often. Night clerks call. They see him. Talk to him. Even check him in. When they left, I sat at the desk, trembling. And that's when I saw it. A key card to room 205, old scratched. On the back, carved deep into the plastic, were 2 words. Wrong key. I quit the next morning. But sometimes late at night, when I catch my reflection in the window, I see him, a tall man, baseball cap, backpack slung over his shoulder, and he's still waiting for the right key. I never thought I'd still be working nights in my 30s, but here I was. Graveyard shift at a shipping warehouse on the edge of town, a place that felt more like a tomb than a workplace. Inside, the air was heavy with the smell of plastic, cardboard, and machine oil. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like a swarm of insects. Forklifts beeped in the distance. The place was alive, but only just. Most nights were slow. Unloading trucks, scanning shipments, stacking pallets. It was monotonous, mind-numbing, but it paid the rent, and that was enough until the night I saw him. He didn't belong there, tall, maybe mid-40s. Pressed khakis, polished shoes, a button-down shirt, too clean, too sharp for a warehouse. The rest of us looked like what we were, tired, worn-down night shifters. He looked like he'd stepped out of an office building by mistake. That first night, he followed the supervisor around. Didn't speak much, just nodded like he was taking notes. I thought he was an inspector. Nothing unusual. The second night, he came back. Same outfit, same quiet stare. By the third night, I couldn't ignore it. I ran into him in the break room. He stood staring at the coffee machine like it was an alien artifact. Then his head snapped toward me. His eyes locked on mine. You get off right at 6? Or do they ever keep you late? It was the way he asked, flat, too personal. I muttered something and left, but the question stuck in my head like a splinter. After that, he was everywhere. If I changed aisles, he appeared minutes later. If I took a break at a different time, he lined his up too. Once I walked to the farthest corner of the warehouse just to breathe alone. Within 10 minutes he was there, leaning against the same stack of boxes. And he didn't just follow, he copied. I always bought blue Gatorade from the vending machine. Suddenly, so did he. I chewed gum, popping bubbles. He started doing it too. One night I noticed him standing the exact way I stood, hands in pockets, head tilted the same way. It wasn't coincidence. It was deliberate. Then my key card vanished. It was clipped to my belt when I started my shift. By midnight it was gone. I searched everywhere, nothing. Hours later I walked out to my car. The driver's side door was hanging open. The glove box was open too, papers scattered across the seat. But nothing was missing. The only thing out of place was the smell, cheap cologne. 2 nights later I saw him outside of work. I was at the gas station grabbing coffee before my shift. Across the street, under a flickering streetlight, he stood watching me. Same khakis, same polished shoes. The week after I saw him again, this time outside my apartment. He stood across the street, motionless, half hidden in shadow. That was when fear really set in. I thought about reporting him to management. But what would I say? That some guy buys the same drink as me and stands in weird places. Nobody would take me seriously. Then came the storm. It was late October. Rain hammered the roof of the warehouse like machine gun fire. Half the crew called out sick. Only 4 of us were left to handle the floor. Around 2 a.m. I was alone in my aisle stacking pallets. That's when I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, echoing on the concrete. I turned. The aisle stretched empty, but the sound kept coming. Closer. Louder. I spun in circles, pallet jack raised like a weapon. Nothing. Then the light above me flickered, snapped twice, and in the stuttering half-dark I saw him, the man in khakis standing 20 feet away. But his face wasn't right. It blurred, shifting like static on a broken TV. I blinked, and for a heartbeat it almost looked like my face staring back at me. He whispered. His voice was a rasp in the dark. "Shift ends at 6, I stumbled back, breath caught in my throat, and then he was gone. I reported it to the supervisor. He pulled up the camera feed for my aisle. We both watched the screen. There I was, stacking boxes. Turning suddenly, talking, flinching, but I was alone. No one else appeared. The footage showed me speaking to thin air. That should have been the end. I should have quit. But bills don't wait for ghosts. I came back the next night, and the one after, and every night I felt him, not always visible, sometimes just footsteps in an empty aisle, sometimes just a reflection in a dark window standing behind me, sometimes a whisper in my dreams. Shift ends at 6. The dreams got worse. I'd wake up standing in the warehouse surrounded by shelves that stretched forever. And he would be there waiting, copying me, smiling with my face. One morning, after another sleepless night, I stumbled into my kitchen and froze. On the table was my missing key card, the one that had disappeared weeks earlier. I live alone. I stared at it for a long time, trying to convince myself I'd misplaced it, that maybe I'd dropped it and someone returned it. But deep down I knew. He had been inside and he wanted me to know it. It's been months since then. I still work at the warehouse, though I dread every shift. I don't tell anyone about him anymore. Nobody believes me. Cameras never catch him. My coworkers never see him. To them, he doesn't exist. But I know better. Every night I feel him. Watching. Copying. Waiting. And I'm terrified of what will happen when 6 o'clock finally comes. And I'm not the one who clocks out. Working the night shift at a gas station isn't glamorous. Most people think it's boring, lonely, a dead-end job. And they're right, but I took the job anyway. Rent was due, bills stacked up, and I didn't have many options. So every night from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., I sat behind a dusty counter at a rundown 24-hour gas station off Route 17. It wasn't much, just 2 pumps, a flickering sign that never worked properly, and a tiny convenience store stocked with the usual: candy, chips, cigarettes, energy drinks, and the world's worst coffee. I didn't mind the hours. I liked the quiet, the solitude. After the chaos of my old warehouse job, being left alone felt like a blessing. And besides, how scary could a gas station be? At least that's what I thought. Every shift began the same. I'd clock in, count the drawer, sweep the floor that didn't need sweeping, and brew the first pot of coffee. The air always smelled faintly of gasoline, stale sugar, and burnt beans. The fluorescent lights above buzzed like angry hornets, and the old refrigerators hummed so loudly they almost drowned out my thoughts. The station sat on a lonely stretch of highway. A car might pass every 10 minutes, its headlights cutting across the empty lot. Sometimes I'd sit out front, smoke a cigarette, and watch the road. That silence, that isolation. It made me feel like I was the only person awake in the whole world. Most nights were uneventful. A trucker stopping for diesel, a college kid with bloodshot eyes buying an energy drink, a drunk stumbling in for chips. That was my life. Uneventful, predictable, until he started showing up. The first time I noticed him, I didn't think much of it. The bell above the door jingled at exactly midnight. A man walked in. Tall, thin, pale skin. He wore a gray hoodie with the hood pulled low, black jeans, and sneakers that looked like they'd been dragged through mud. He didn't say hello, didn't glance around. He just moved straight to the back cooler, grabbed a single bottle of water, walked to the counter, and placed exact change on the counter. He never spoke. Never smiled. Just stared, his eyes. Something about them was wrong. Dark, empty, too still. Like he wasn't looking at me, but through me. I muttered thanks, bagged the water, and watched him leave. He walked across the lot, then disappeared. No car engine. No footsteps. Just gone. Weird, but people are weird. I brushed it off, but he came back the next night. Same time, same gray hoodie, same water, same exact change. Then the night after that. By the third night, I was unsettled. It wasn't just coincidence. It was routine, a ritual. At midnight sharp, he arrived. Always silent. Always water. Always exact change. I started watching the clock as it ticked closer to midnight, my chest tightening, waiting for the bell to ring. And every night, like clockwork, it did. Out of curiosity and maybe paranoia, I decided to watch him on the security cameras. The monitors were ancient, black and white, grainy as hell. At 12, I leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen. The bell jingled. He entered, except he didn't. On the monitor, the store was empty. I blinked, heart thudding. He was right in front of me, walking down the aisle, but the cameras didn't show him. The door opened, the bell rang. The water cooler shifted when he grabbed the bottle. But on the screen, nothing. He wasn't there. I told myself it was a glitch. Old tech, broken feed. But the cameras worked fine for everyone else. Truckers, drunks, random customers, they all appeared clear as day, just not him. After a week of his nightly visits, I started to notice something else. Whenever he entered, the air changed. A chill seeped through the store, icy enough to make my breath fog faintly in front of my face. My hand stiffened. The humming lights flickered as if shivering too. And then there was the smell, not immediate but faint, lingering. Damp earth, wet soil after rain, mixed with something metallic, sharp, rusty, like blood. One night I couldn't take it anymore. Curiosity overpowered fear. When he came in, instead of staying behind the counter, I stepped out from behind it. "Hey man," I said, forcing a casual tone. "You always come in around the same time. You live nearby?" He froze in the aisle, slowly turned his head toward me. His skin was pale, his lips cracked and dry. His eyes, darker than I remembered, like bottomless pits. He tilted his head slightly like he didn't understand. Then, in a voice so raspy it sounded like paper tearing, he whispered, "Just passing through." A shiver ran down my spine. "Passing through where?" He didn't answer. He just grabbed the bottle of water, paid exact change, and walked out. When he left, I rushed to the door, looked across the lot. The highway stretched empty. No car, no footsteps, no sound, gone. It wasn't always midnight. One night I dozed off at the counter. Sometime after 3 a.m., a sound woke me. Knock, knock, knock. I jerked upright. Someone was at the glass door, knocking slowly. It was him, but the doors were locked. We locked them at 2 a.m. Customers had to buzz after that. Yet there he was, knocking, knock, knock, knock. His face pressed to the glass. His lips moved, whispering something I couldn't hear. His breath fogged the window even though the night outside was warm. I stood frozen, my pulse hammering. When I blinked, just blinked, he was gone. The lot was empty. I wasn't the only one. My coworker Lisa covered one of my shifts that weekend. Around 12:15, my phone buzzed, a text from her. Some weird dude in a hoodie just came in, Creepy AF, you know him? My stomach dropped. I called immediately. Lisa, watch the cameras. Check the monitors, silence. Then her voice shaky. He's not on them, oh my God. He's right here in front of me, but the line went dead. The next day, Lisa quit. No explanation. Didn't even pick up her paycheck. I should have quit too. Should have left and never looked back. But rent doesn't pay itself, and stupidly I stayed. 2 weeks later, midnight arrived. I sat stiff behind the counter, staring at the door, my breath shallow. The bell jingled. He entered. But this time he didn't go to the cooler. Didn't grab his water. He walked straight to the counter. Step, step, step. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. He leaned down, face inches from mine. His grin cracked his dry lips. His breath smelled of dirt and rust. You shouldn't be here, he rasped. My blood turned to ice. He placed something on the counter. Not water. A wallet. My wallet. I picked it up with trembling hands. Flipped it open. My ID photo stared back at me. But it wasn't me, it was him. Same hoodie. Same dead eyes. My name printed underneath. When I looked up and he was gone, the lot was empty. The bell hadn't even rung. I quit the next morning. Left the station, the highway, the night shifts. But the story didn't end there. Because sometimes around midnight I'll wake up in a cold sweat. My wallet sitting on the nightstand. My photo inside, and for a split second, it's not me, it's him, like he's waiting, like one day he'll come back and next time I won't wake up. I never believed in ghosts. Not until the night I started working at the hospital. I was 27, broke, and desperate for a job. Security guard wasn't my dream career, but the pay was steady, and the night shift meant I didn't have to deal with too many people. Just a uniform, a badge, and a flashlight. That's all they gave me, and a set of keys that felt heavier than they should have. The hospital itself was old, built in the 1950s, patched together with endless renovations. Hallways that led to locked doors. Stairwells that seemed to go nowhere. Entire wings shut down after budget cuts, left to rot in silence. At night it felt less like a place of healing and more like a mausoleum. I told myself it didn't bother me. But it did. The smell of disinfectant. The buzz of fluorescent lights. The echo of my boots down the tile corridors. Sometimes I'd stop just to listen. And in those pauses I'd swear I could hear breathing behind the walls. My supervisor gave me the tour on my first night. Ground floor lobby, emergency entrance, ICU on the second floor, pediatrics on the third. Then he pointed to a locked steel door at the far end of the east hallway. Never mind this one, he said quickly. Why, I asked. Old psych wing. Shut down years ago. Nothing back there but dust, and he looked at me a little too long. Still, keep it locked, I nodded. Didn't think much of it until later. It was around 2 a.m. I was doing my rounds, passing that very door when I heard it. A sound that froze me in my tracks, a cough. Faint, raspy, echoing from the other side of the steel door. I stood there, gripping my flashlight, heart pounding. Another cough. Then a whisper, "Help!" My throat went dry. I fumbled for the keys, then stopped myself. The door was locked for a reason. I pressed my ear to the metal. Silence. Just silence. When I mentioned it to one of the nurses later, she gave me a strange look. "You heard something from the psych wing?" "Yeah," I said. Sounded like a patient. Her face paled. She leaned closer. "Don't ever open that door." The next few nights it got worse. I'd be patrolling the third floor. Pediatrics, lights dimmed, toys scattered in waiting rooms. Then I'd catch movement at the end of the hall. A figure, pale, thin, wearing a faded hospital gown. He always moved the same way, slow, shuffling steps. Head tilted to the side like he was listening for something. The first time, I thought it was an actual patient who'd wandered out of bed. I shouted, "Sir, you okay? You need to get back to your room." But he didn't answer. Didn't even look at me. Just turned the corner and vanished. I chased after him. Empty hallway. Doors locked. Not a soul around. This happened again. And again. Always the same figure. Always the same silence. I asked around quietly, trying not to sound insane. Most staff shrugged it off. But one older nurse pulled me aside. "You saw him, didn't you?" I didn't answer. The patient in room 6, I looked it up. There was no room 6, not anymore. That room had been in the psych wing behind the steel door. Digging through old hospital records, I found it. Room 6 belonged to a man named Daniel Foster, mid-40s, diagnosed with schizophrenia. In 1973, he hung himself with the bedsheets. They found him during night rounds, swinging silently from the ceiling. They shut down the entire wing a year later. Officially, it was due to budget cuts, but the staff had another story. They said Daniel never left. After that, things spiraled. Sometimes while checking the cameras, I'd see him, standing in hallways that were supposed to be empty, just outside patients' rooms, sometimes outside mine. Once around 3 a.m., I stepped into the stairwell and froze. He was standing halfway down the stairs, head tilted, eyes wide and milky, lips moving without sound. I backed away slowly. When I blinked, he was gone. Sleep became impossible. Even when I was home, I felt watched. My dreams filled with flickering lights, locked doors, and that whisper, "Help me." The worst night came in late November. A storm hit hard. Power lines went down. The hospital plunged into darkness. Backup generators kicked in, but only for ICU and ER. The rest of the building was lit by dim emergency lights. My radio crackled with static. Phones were dead. Most of the staff huddled in lit areas, but me, I had to patrol the dark floors. I'll never forget the silence. My flashlight beam cut through dust and shadow. The vending machines were dead. The TV's blank. Every sound echoed like thunder. On the second floor, I turned the corner and froze. He was there, standing beneath a flickering exit sign. The man in the gown. His face pale as paper, eyes hollow. He lifted one trembling hand and pointed at me. I backed away, heart slamming, but my radio hissed. Through the static, a voice whispered, "Room 6 and the east hallway door, the psych wing." The one I was told never to open. Something pulled me toward it. Against every instinct, every warning, I walked. My flashlight shook in my hand. The steel door was unlocked. Wide open, dust coated everything. Broken gurneys, rusted bed frames, cracked tiles. My boots crunched on shattered glass as I moved deeper. That's when I heard it. The sound of dripping water. No, not water. Something thicker. I shined my light. Dark stains ran down the wall, old brown, blood. Then I saw the door. Room 6, the faded number barely visible. The door was ajar. I pushed it open. Inside, the air was freezing. The bed frame was still bolted to the floor, stripped bare. But dangling from the ceiling was a length of torn bedsheet. Still knotted. Still swaying gently as if someone had just stepped off. And standing in the corner was Daniel. Head tilted, eyes wide. Whispering without sound, I stumbled back. My flashlight flickered. For a split second, the room was full. Dozens of figures in gowns, all staring, all whispering. The dead patients of the psych wing. Then darkness swallowed everything. I woke up in the hospital lobby. Morning light streaming through the glass. My supervisor standing over me, furious. He said he found me passed out by the east wing door. He didn't believe a word of my story, but here's the thing. When I checked my pockets, I found something. A patient wristband, old yellowed, the name still visible. Daniel Foster. Room 6. I quit the job that day. Thought I could escape, but I can't, because sometimes late at night I hear it again. That rasping cough, that whisper closer and closer. And when I look in the mirror sometimes, it isn't my reflection staring back, it's his. I've told you these stories, motels, warehouses, gas stations, hospitals, but I never told you the truth. They're not just stories. They're my nights. All of them. Every place. Every scream. Every shadow. And now, it's happening again. The shift never ends. The night never ends. I never clocked out. You're next.